Hello, and welcome. Especially you, Random Red. You beat me to it. You can't beat me to it. You're not allowed to. It's illegal. Um, I'm back. We're on a Monday. I'm not usually here on a Monday. I want to be here on more Mondays and less Tuesdays, but I always end up being busy on Monday and then I do it on Tuesday. This week we're busy on Tuesday, so we're doing it on Monday. Um, yeah, a little bit later because I was cleaning up and getting ready. But that's fine. I don't think we're going to take forever in the cooking phase anyway. What has inspired me today? Well, let me show you. I'm trying to thaw it in a tub of warm water, and it's thawed. Okay. Um, when I was home for Thanksgiving, we had a duck, and it came with this packet of orange sauce, which we did not use. We froze it, and I just hung onto it, and we don't even know what it tastes like because I haven't opened it up. So I'm going to open it up. We're going to see what it tastes like. We're going to play with this. That's going to be the whole thing. And I've got some chicken thighs that I thawed out because I figure we are going to use chicken and make some kind of orange chicken. I don't think it's super creative of me, honestly. But what are you going to do? Sometimes you just can't be creative. Um, weird lines. Okay. So, that stuff, the chicken thawed mostly. Thawed enough. A couple of chicken thighs. We're going to combine those. We're going to make a thing. Also, you may remember last time. Oh, I should comment. I wasn't here on Thursday. I kind of disappeared after the Tuesday show last week. I got a COVID vaccine on Wednesday, and I was completely laid out on Thursday. And I should have said something, but I on the old Discord, but I didn't because I'm bad at this. So that's where I was, but 100% now. It only lasts about a day, and I'm all vaccinated up, which is great. If you recall, last time we made caramelized onions, and they took forever, and we did ultimately get them to caramelize in the end. We didn't use all of them, so I'm going to make some kind, and we're still considering what the focal length on this camera should be. Pardon me while I adjust it. Is that better? No, that looks worse. Hold on. I'm going to do it live. It's like that's probably close enough. So these are caramelized onions from last time. I'm going to use them up. I think we're going to make some kind of caramelized onion orange thing. We, first of all, need to get this out of the packet so I can taste it so I know what we're working with as I attempt to move forward. I have only a general idea what I'm working with there because it says orange on the packet, and that's it. Big enough bowl that I can stir stuff around in. Can't even see the bowl; it's completely blown out by the white background. What if I tick? All right, I'm going to keep playing with the. What if I knock that to there? That's better. At least everything's not completely blown out white. So let's get this orange stuff out of this packet so I can taste it. Give it a smell. It smells a lot like orange juice. A little frozen nugget in there still. Okay. Right up front, orange. Also, cinnamon. Thing does not say what's in it. It does say it should be boiled in the bag. So, I guess pray for me, I didn't do that. But I'm getting orange and cinnamon and get an actual spoon and taste a little bit of this. It's thick, which means we can thin it out with stuff. It's kind of one note. It's acidic and sweet, but it's more acidic than sweet. It's orange and cinnamon, maybe a touch of clove. It's probably a touch of a couple different spices. Felix, welcome in. Hello. Happy Monday. I've adjusted the camera a little bit. Is it better, do you think? It's definitely less blown out. We can see all the colors of things. It's not just white on white. I can work with that, but it's not exactly what I thought I was starting with. Actually, we might add a little bit of lemon to it just to up the sharpness. It needs a little bit of salt. I've got some general ideas here. How's the focus? That's the thing I've been fussing with. Is it good enough? I think the colors are better now, but the focus I'm still not entirely sold on. I don't have anything like that you can read. Can you read that? I don't want to. The problem, of course, is I'm trying to do this with the with OBS natively, because the software suite that is supposed to go with this camera is like a third of a gigabyte for just a thing to adjust the camera. It's crazy. Okay, well, sounds good. Glad everything's visible. We're going to make that into a... We're going to make that into a sauce. Okay, I think I know. I think I know where we're going. It needs the things it needs. It needs some salt, which we can probably get from soy sauce, which will give us some of the savory notes as well. It definitely needs some heat. It has absolutely no heat in it. It's in need of some pepper for sure. I think, and it's already got some acidity, but I think I might goose that up with a touch of lemon juice, and then it's going to be served with some manner of chicken dish. So that'll give us our fatty component, and we should have a pretty well balanced thing. Savory, salty, sweet, acidic, fatty, the five elements, the five nations. Okay. I guess let's get started. I don't think we're going to be in for a long time today. But I'm going to start building a few things that we can work into the sauce as it goes. So as mentioned, these are our caramelized onions from last week. So they're sweet and savory and buttery. So we're already adding some fat to it. I was talking with you actually, Felix, about doing a large batch of these, and I increasingly want to try that. Because caramelized onions are just so nice. I'm mincing them up because I don't want any long strands of this. Because we're going to try to build it into a more of a glaze-like sauce. So we're just going to make sure that they're sort of all the long strands have been broken apart. Caramelized onions are so good. And then we're going to throw that in our pan. You know what? I'm actually going to throw half of that in our pan. Because as I've said before, this stuff goes a long way. And I will I don't know, put the remainder on toast or something. Kind of pack it into a little brick. Then you can keep it in a tiny baggie. That'd be a good Christmas present, actually. Make a big batch of caramelized onions. Bookwoman, yes, Monday. I've been trying to sort of shift myself to Mondays for months now, but I keep having conflicts, and then I just go for Tuesday. Today I have a conflict on Tuesday, so it's really convenient to switch to Monday. Welcome in. So, minced up caramelized onions in the pot. Heat on, we're going to melt them because the butter in them has sort of solidified them. So we're going to heat them up just so that they melt. And then the grease from them is going to help start off the pan. I don't want to add any more fat if I can help it. While that's getting started, we have our chicken pieces here. We're going to switch boards. We're going to do a fast marinade because didn't give myself enough time to do a full length one. We're just going to use this same bag, so I'm going to pour off the extra chicken juice. We have still a little bit of a froze right there. So we're taking these chicken thighs into chunklets. It'll help them marinate a little bit quicker. And I'm going to want them to be bite-sized anyways, so. I think I thawed them a teeny bit too far in the old. I gave them a warm water bath to fast thaw them, and I think I went a little bit too far because I just needed them to be thawed enough that I could easily cut them, that they weren't rock hard from being frozen. So they're only in there for a few minutes, but Gotta be careful with chicken. Always gotta be careful with chicken. Gotta remember that this bag now has been chickened on the outside as well as the inside. Which means we're going to have to set it somewhere where it can, the surface it's setting on can be washed. So there. We're going to give it, now, most of the flavor molecules that we put in marinades don't actually absorb into, oh, you guys are on that side, come back over here. Chicken. Most of the flavor molecules you put in marinades don't actually absorb into the meat of what you're doing. Yeah, it looks good. So we're not going to go nuts with a bunch of stuff. The ones that do work really well are salt, sugar, and acids, which will also affect the texture. So I'm going to add some stuff to try to juice this thing up. So that's a tablespoon of black vinegar, 2%. 2 of soy sauce. And I want to say we put in a syrup instead of granulated sugar. I can hear, oops, slammed my door. I can hear my onions sizzling. I'm just going to give a generous pinch of granulated sugar. So around, I don't know, about that much. And some water just to goose up our volume a little bit so we can get everybody immersed. Do the old roll trick since I can't suck the air out because we're covered in raw chicken. And we're going to have this rest in the sink because the exterior of it has been chickened as well. And we're also going to immediately wash this, the knife, our hands, and the countertop. Because again, raw chicken. Before I touch anything else. It's probably fine, but better safe than salmonella. And yeah, I got some drips here on the counter, so we're gonna actually soap the counter, which I don't typically do mid-show, but I dripped some chicken juice on the counter, so. Okay. Okay, good. Let's pop over to our stove and take a look at our caramelized onion starter here. They're starting to smell like caramelized onions. They were already caramelized and brown, so we can't let them go too much farther or they will start to burn. I just wanted to loosen them up a little bit. To that, we need some hot pepper, which I have lots of. We're going to come back a sec. Hot pepper and hot pepper. From my big jar of hot peppers. Send that into our pan. Start them getting a little bit toasty. Since they're in there with very little else. And some heat, some medium-low heat. They should start getting a little bit toasty. I don't have any fresh ginger. I have some. We're going to use some fresh ginger, along with some powdered ginger, some garlic. That doesn't look like anything over there, so we're going to come back over here. We're going to take a look at our ginger. It's nice and yellow. We did have that one day when I opened up the ginger, and it was a really unpleasant color on the inside. And we went ahead anyways because it was the only ginger I had, but I've talked about in the past that the skin is often not worth getting rid of. So this time, of course, I am going back on that, and I'm getting rid of the skin. Ooh. Maybe we shouldn't have. Maybe we should have just left the skins on. I think the skins are perfectly edible, personally. Okay, we do have to be mindful things are going to start burning because there's not a lot of mass in that pan, so even though we're adding just very small things. We've got our powdered ginger. We're going to add that too because it's slightly different, but I'm going to add that in a little bit. Some powdered ginger. Some black pepper. Some onion powder, garlic powder. We're doing our sort of standard powders mix. And some garlic, and then I think we're going to pour the orange stuff on top of all of that to prevent it from burning. Every time I feel like, oh, this is going to be the time it just works great, and then it doesn't, and I'm like, should have used the the tube. No reason not to use the tube. Smash that guy. Let's get out our tube. We have an ad approaching. That is our first one. I feel like I'm going real fast today for some reason. And I don't know why. I'm not really in a rush. Okay, we're going to stick with 2. Save a few stragglers that are on here. The rest of that is scrap. Garlic scraps. Okay. Okay, now we really have to pay attention so I don't burn that stiff. Smells a little toasted in there. Smells a little overly toasted in there. So we're going to come over, we're going to add our orange stuff. Before anything really burns too badly. Okay. Get this all stirred together. Now it is, as mentioned, it is thick. So, and it needed salt. So, we're going to add a decent amount of soy to it. Both for the liquid component and for the salt component. We're going to stir it up. We're going to let it broil for a minute. We're going to taste it. We're going to see if it wants any more sharpness. We're going to see if it wants anything else in general. Let that bring up to a bubble, which it does immediately. That's a decent sign that it's hot. It's also already coating back of a spoon, probably because I suspect there's a lot of starch dissolved in that sauce packet. Oh, it's very orangey now that we've heated it up and given it some salt. Spicy too. Ooh, yeah. Okay. I may have gone a skosh too far on the spice. Should have used 1 pepper. We are going to give it not a full, like a halfie of lemon juice. I think it needs a tiny bit more sharpness. I don't want to say it needs more sugar, but it might need a touch more sugar to balance it out a little bit. The acid should help with it. It's sticky, I'll give it that. It's thick and sticky, and I don't think it's going to have to sit here very long. Interesting. Interesting. We're probably going to actually literally backburner it on low. Because I want the flavors of the chunky bits I put in there to infuse. We want the ginger and the garlic. Oh, and the powders. Can't forget the powders. We want the ginger and the garlic to really infuse into this sauce, rich it up. But unless I add more water to it, we can't really have it simmering. It's already very, 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 very thick. Very thick. So thick. Really, the back of your throat is so thick. Really, really thick. It's not overly salty, but it's not. So I think we hit the salt. We might actually just add a little bit of water to it. And let it sort of cook back. Add some water to it and then let it cook back down to thickness while we do other stuff. Okay. Okay, that's our plan. We're gonna let that sort of ruddle away in the back corner there and be nice and happy while we can construct the front of the dish. For which I should fry some chicken, but I don't think I want to fry. Definitely not deep fry, but I don't really want to use that much oil. Can we pan fry breaded chicken? Asking Google. Resting. Okay, we can do that. We can manage that, but I have to let the chicken really rest in the powders. Which we can do. We can manage this. We're coming back over here. We're moving stuff. I wonder if I should put some... I mentioned right at the start when I tasted that thing that it tasted like there was some cinnamon in it. And I think I've overwhelmed that. I think it was a fairly little delicate... It was actually a fairly delicately spiced thing to begin with, and I've just kind of gone nuts with it. I'm adding a little bit of cinnamon back in. Just a dash. Because I think I liked having a little bit of cinnamon flavor in there. Okay. Didn't just need to be adding cinnamon, but I added cinnamon. It's just I added a brown powder to a brown liquid, and it stayed brown. Okay. So according to what I just read, which comes from dispatch.com, you can get breading to stick to a fried chicken by letting it rest in the dry breading layer longer. So there's that. I guess that means the chicken is going to be super shortcutted because I'm already going to take it out of its marinade. I hope it picked up some flavor because it's out of time. We're going to pour the liquid off. Mostly. Wish I hadn't gotten chicken on the outside of this bag. The Cybertraz. Howdy. Welcome in. It is time for Deliciousness. We're doing a slightly frustrating thing because there's chicken goop on the outside of that bag because I was not properly careful when I was handling the chicken in the bag. So I'm washing my hands a lot. And how am I doing? Well, you may have noticed I only did one stream last week. That was because on Wednesday, I went and got a COVID vaccine. And then on Thursday, I was functionally dead from the COVID vaccine. Don't get your COVID vaccines. It kills you. No, that's not true. I don't believe that. And you should get your COVID vaccines. But I was just completely blasted dead on Thursday. And then I had to catch up for missing an entire day of my life on Friday. So, and then we went into the weekend, and I could have streamed on the weekend, but whatever. Having actually gotten COVID as well, one times, I can tell you I much prefer the vaccine to the disease. So I'm going to, keep up to date with those things, but so I've just cracked an egg into the bag, and I poked the yolk with my finger, and then I'm just stirring it around, and that's how we're getting our chicken all coated in egg. We're gonna wash our hands again because I got to handle more stiff. And then we're here on a Monday, which is not my normal day, but I would like it to be my normal day. Here's the thing. For months now, I've been saying I should make Monday my normal day. It's less hectic to do it on a Monday. And then something comes up, and I just push it off to Tuesday again. Okay, so our eggy chicken goo. And then what we need is a breading that is going to go crispy. We need the flour tower. We need the flour tower. Ultimately, we're just making orange chicken. So, like I said in the title, probably orange chicken. Definitely orange chicken. I'm not really following a recipe though. So that's I guess is the surprise. Who knows? Come on. Come on, you went in there straight. Why can't you come out straight? Dropping stuff. We're gonna use that. Because we're not making a proper like penne station where I've got an egg and a bread and in a sort of in a row. We are instead going to just make the breading in here. So regular flour. Orange chicken is a weird case. It's very much a Chinese American thing. It's something that was invented in America by Chinese immigrants for an American palate. So it has similarities. That's 2 scoops of potato starch. So it uses Chinese concepts and techniques, but it's this sort of weird American amalgam thing. But you'll find it at every vaguely Asian restaurant because it's not really from a specific cultural starting point. It's super everywhere. What we've done here is instead of a just flour breading, most of this is starch. I'm not using cornstarch, I'm using potato starch because I have more potato starch than cornstarch. And I think you would use rice starch if you wanted to get really fussy about what variety you're going for. And then you want a little bit of baking soda, and I forget how much, but I know it's not too much. So we're kind of without a recipeing this. I'm adding a bunch of white powders together. I'm going to add like a not quite full teaspoon to it. And that's supposed to help your breading get like... It pushes some air into the actual breading as it's cooking to, in theory, make it crispy. And I want some salt in there too, but we don't want our big grains of salt, our big granulated coarse sea salt. We want fine salt. I've determined that there's no reason to buy fine salt because you can just throw salt in one of these guys and instant fine salt, and a little bit of spice in there because we had a little bit of pepper residue. Why am I talking so fast today? So let's go through. Oh, it feels so weird. It's so light and fine and cold. The texture of potato starch is so different from flour. I'm pinching out some lumps. I bought some on sale flour and it's really lumpy. It is one of the lumpiest bags of flour I've ever encountered. It's weird. And it's probably just because it's not... No, it says on the package it's pre-sifted. I don't know. It's really lumpy. It's not pre-sifted. And if it is, then it's done a terrible job of it. Okay, do we think that's going to be enough to cover our chickens? We're not doing a deep fry, which is the proper way to do orange chicken, because I don't have enough oil and I don't like deep frying when I can't open the windows and it's cold today. We might add just a touch more volume to this. Trying to get that much chicken in there. It should be fine. It's probably okay. I'm also not doing... You may notice I'm not doing rice. I don't think we're going to serve this over rice. I think we're going to serve this over noodles. Yeah. I had the wrong burner on for my sauce back there, so it has stopped bubbling and sort of... Okay. Well, if there's not enough, I guess we'll find out in a sec. I really want to get the chicken bag there out of the way and thrown away. So we're going to go for it. And we're going to just kind of fish these chickens out. And drop them in the thing. Pokemon has a meatloaf in the oven. Exciting. I made a meatloaf once here on the show, and I was really bad at it. That's something I should go back and do properly. So I've selected the vessel here that I'm doing this in specifically because it has a tight-fitting lid. I'm going to show you a trick for breading stuff. I'm also going to throw this chicken away, wash my hands, wash everything. Oops. I pumped soap and my hand wasn't there. It just went right in the sink. Chicken. It sure makes me wash my hands a lot. Okay, that should be our last hand wash, at least for the time being, because the stuff is explicitly supposed to rest with its powdered surface on. Probably should have a reference recipe up, so I am just kind of winging it. So heads up, things might go south. But container here with a tight-fitting lid. In this case, plastic lid that snaps on. You could also do this with a plastic bag. You get your lid on, you get your stuff, your gooey meat in there, or whatever you're breading with your powder, and then you make sure to hold it so that you don't shoot powder all over the place. And then you take a look at it and see what you've got. And they are all mostly individually breaded. This is good for large volumes of something small like this, breading nuggets or okras or whatever. We're going to let these guys, as mentioned, rest in the powder. There you go. That's the quick way to get the breading on a lot of a thing. Doesn't really work if you're doing multiple layers because you'll end up knocking a layer off to do another layer, but if you're just doing the simple one wet layer, one dry layer, that's the shortcut for volume jobs. And it looks like we had more than enough powder, so I'm glad I didn't add extra thinking we were going to run short, because that would have just been a waste. And they will gradually hydrate the powder as they sit there, so we're going to let them rest, and then we're going to kind of give it another quick tossy toss. Our sauce is back to a gentle bubble, which is good. Stir it periodically. Give it a quick taste. Ooh, the lemon really, okay, yeah. A touch of lemon really woke up the citrus on it. Doesn't taste like lemon, it tastes like orange, but it like really woke it up. I like that. Okay. We're moving over to here. We're going to, I've been using olive oil for almost everything, but we're not using olive oil here. We have to get to the back and get out our grapeseed. A high heat neutral oil, which we're not going to add a ton of, but we're going to add more than you would use for standard sautéing. I want to make sure that the pan is well oiled. Heat a little bit high, and we're going to use it to fry up our little chickens. Let's see. I'm going to swap our sauce onto the back corner there so that I can use that top back one for some water. In the future, in the near future. And we're going to add a few vegetables, because in my opinion, I know a lot of orange chicken is just served as the chicken and the rice, but in my opinion, I think orange chicken is better with a bit of onion and a bit of pepper added to it, and I happen to have a bell pepper and these little baby onions, which we're going to use. We're going to use the babiest of all onions. It's such a baby as our onion component. I gotta look for these baby onions in the future. These are so handy to have just a little bit of onion in something. Onions of different sizes. Grocery stores sell onions of different sizes. Don't try to standardize. You got onions, just throw them all out there. You sell them by the pound anyways. Let me buy a pound of little baby ones, mixed in with the pound of the big honk and chonker ones. So we're not using a ton of onion. We don't want a ton of onion. Chicken is the star here, but and there's already onion in the sauce two ways, but I want some like pieces of onion as well. Although we don't need them right away. They're not going to go in the pan with the chicken. And for our pepper, we're going to take off one of these lobes. And then I will have to use the other 2/3 of that guy soon. Peppers don't go bad immediately once you've broken them open, but they do start to dry out once the interior is exposed and they get wrinkly. And it makes them more vulnerable to going bad. So I think the green adds a nice splash. I think the vegetables, if just sort of tender crisped, add a nice textural contrast. And also, having some vegetables in your diet is probably a good thing. Are you eating enough vegetables? You probably should eat more vegetables. But I don't want to put them in now because I don't want to risk either overcooking them or undercooking the chicken or overcooking the chicken. So we'll do them at a more fortuitous time and we can sort of toss everything together. That's the beauty of having a nice sort of sticky sauce to pull everything together. You can cook the things that are going in it slightly separately and then toss them together and the sauce binds the dish into one cohesive thing. I don't know how hot our oil is, but I can smell it, and it is, you probably can't see it. You definitely can't see it. It's getting that sort of wrinkly texture that oil gets as it heats up. If you saw it, you'd know exactly what I mean by wrinkly. We have an ad approaching in 2.5 minutes. Oh, speaking of ads, if you're enjoying viewing and you don't want to see the ads, if you're okay with the ads, that's fine. I try to call them out, but consider subscribing to the channel. There's a Christmas discount on right now, which is a pretty good one for subscribing. So I don't recall the last time Twitch did a Christmas discount, but I don't think I was streaming really heavily for Christmas last year, so I may have just missed it. But I don't think they did one last year, honestly. Well, our pan feels hot when I sort of hover my hand over it. I don't want it to burn. So, I guess let's get back to the chickens and fry us up some chicken. Oh, no, actually. Because you really want to serve this stuff crispy hot. So I want to get my water boiling while I'm doing this so that I can serve it relatively immediately. Anything fried is better when it's fresh and crispy, of course. So, water is going to come up to a boil. We're going to be using little packets of rice vermicelli as my stand-in for doing actual rice. I have actual rice. We could do actual rice, but I don't know. I feel like something different. So these guys, they come in little individual packets, like instant noodles, but they're just the noodles. Not the, no flavors, no nothing, just the noodles, which I like, because I often throw the little flavor packs away anyways. So that's going to be our noodle, when we get that far. My oil is smoking, so that is a sign that we are hot, 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 and we are going to start frying these things. We're doing them in batches because I don't want to crowd them too much. So we're going to need to toss them around a lot. If you were deep frying, this is one of the things that when you deep fry, it is very difficult to filter your oil because the powder is so fine. You end up having to run it through a actual filter. The question is this working? I think it is. We're getting sort of crispy surfaces. They don't really want to toss super well. And I definitely need to keep my temperature up. What is the best tool for this? I'm not sure what the best tool is here. probably round wooden guy. I wouldn't use silicone in here because we are, for the same reason I wouldn't use them in actual deep frying oil. We're shooting for similar temperatures and a lot of immersion. But yeah, we're just gonna sort of toss these around until they seem good. And then we're also gonna have to give them a tester because I don't have a fully clear, obvious it's done on the outside. So we're gonna have to test some of these bigger ones to ensure that we are cooked through, because we don't want to be having raw chicken. I'm sure these little tiny guys are going to be cooked fine. It's the big ones I'm worried about. Ah, you know what I should have done? It's too late now. Is it too late? We'll see how these come out. It might not be too late to swap to a wok for this. I forgot about the wok because I didn't hang it in the kitchen because I ran out of room in the kitchen. It's in that room. We could fry in the wok because it has a very narrow bottom, so you don't need very much oil to give it some depth at the bottom. We could even just pour the oil we've got in there directly into the wok. Stuff's falling over. Because I didn't want to pull out the big cast irons because of the, it takes so much oil to give you some depth. But this guy, with his narrow bottom, I think might actually be the correct tool for the job here. Means I got this guy dirty for maybe not no reason. We're gonna revisit that. And with this setup, yeah, then they all get nice and immersed in the oil without needing a ton of it. And then we can go on the bubbles. Okay. The joys of a wok. I don't know why I didn't think of it to begin with. I should definitely have. You can even use the wok. Fry it. Yeah. Oh, God, I should have used the wok from the beginning. No reason not to. And then I can even, can I? Tossy toss. I don't think I have the confidence to do a tossy toss with the wok there. So let's get those folks out of there. And into a, I'm just gonna use the now emptied pan there to catch them. Although it is still a little bit hot, since it's already oiled up. Yeah, I'm gonna add just a touch more oil now that I have a good look at what we're working with here. Okay, that was not a good idea because that pan is still in fact hot, even though the burner is not. Throw my little rice noodles in my back thing there. Okay. For the sake of not burning anything, That's our catcher, and that pan gets to sit in the sink and cool its jets. That's our catcher. Because we can also put the sauce right in there for the tossing. Okay. Part 2. Same as the first, but with a wok this time. Trying to make sure to not put in too much at once and also not get just lumps of batter. Okay. I think this is... We do still need to give them the little tossy toss. Make sure that the tops are getting cooked. But yeah, okay. Check in on our rice noodles. Make sure that burner's not, yeah, burner's fine. Okay, yeah, this is working. I was going to take one of these bigger ones and, yeah, that's a big one. While our second round is going, we'll pop over here, and we're going to slice one of these guys in half. See what the middle looks like, and also give it a taste, see how the cook is on it. And usually I judge doneness of fried foods by the color of the breading, because you can do that, unless they're really big, and then you got to try the old temperature trick, the interior. These guys are pretty small, so I think that golden brown breading should be a good measure. They're chicken thighs too, so they can stand a little bit of extra cooking compared to like a chicken breast that would get super dried out super easy. So I recommend if you're new to frying, fry with chicken thighs. They're much more forgiving. Oh, this is really good. Oh, damn. It's like it's karaage. I've made karaage. Oh, damn. That's really good. Just as is. It's just these little, they're crispy on the outside. They're really meaty on the inside. Tender, juicy. Now let's take the heat off on our noodles. Oh, this is really good. Oh, damn. I was not expecting them to be so good naked. But, maybe resting them in the stuff like that really, really helps. I'm good. I'll toot my own horn for a little bit here about how good those are. Now, hopefully, we won't know until tomorrow or later this evening. But if you get your breading nice and crispy with vegetable starch and baking soda, it will stay crispier longer and will reheat better. So I'm taking these guys out. They are a little bit tricky to scoop. They are sucking up a little bit more oil than I think I would like. And it's probably because I'm not having great temperature control in the wok. So we do need to be a little cautious. But also, I think you can load it up and just acknowledge there's not that much oil in there. Extract all of our little bits. Bits extracted. Okay, that's all of our bits. Okay. What do you got? I know Bookwoman's having a meatloaf. What are you guys having for dinner? Random Red said they were already cooking right at the start, but didn't say what, which is rude. Okay, our oil is getting very starchy in the end here. Oh. These guys are looking. They're looking good. If you can hear that, they've got a really nice crisp as they sort of clatter against each other. The one I tried was the biggest one in there. So if that one's cooked through, then they're all cooked through. We need to drain out those noodles before they go soggy. And we're going to serve this. And we go for the white plate a lot, but I think the white plate is correct here. And I'm just going to go ahead and plate our noodles immediately. You can hardly see them. I'll show them off. You can hardly see them. They're like ghostly white inside the water. They're difficult to drain too because they are very slick. They're super slippery. So I wish I could show this off, but I need some extra light for it. But I'm always afraid of losing them down the drain as I'm draining them because they're so slippery. Nope, I lost one. Sometimes you just lose one. Okay. Turn that light off. Come back to our chickens. Wow, our oil has become basically a starch slurry, which is impressive. As for our noodles, again, they don't look like much. They're white on white, which I've been struggling with since I put the new camera in. Is white on white. So, you know, they are what they are. They yam what they yam. I just remembered that this stuff needs to be tended. Thankfully, I have it on very low heat, but I want to make sure that we're going to bring that up a little bit, because I do want it to start to bubble a little bit before I throw it on our chickens. And we're getting to the point where we're going to start throwing stuff together. As soon as I think these guys are ready, we're going to drain that out. I guess we're going to clean some of the starch. I was going to throw the vegetables just in there right away, but I guess we're going to have to give it a quick scrape down to get rid of some of the excess starch that's in there. Just because we got a little bit thick. How you guys looking, by the way? I'd say they're done, so get them out of there. The spider here is not the best for a vessel this small, for a cooking vessel of this smallness. It's really good if you got a big vat and you're trying to scoop stuff out. Yeah. So we're going to take this and we're going to unscrew the handle a little bit. That's not what I wanted to see. The handle is ever so slightly got a pivot to it, and it did not take kindly to being put on its side. I'll have to tighten that up when it's not screaming hot. Okay. It's hot, the burner's hot, and we just need a smidgen more oil. And we just kind of throw our vegetables in there. This is where Wooden Round Guy excels, because we just need to sort of toss these. We want them cooked, but still with a little bit of crisp to them. We call that tender crisp. Tizan, hello. Thank you for the moisten. That's the first one of the day. Moist. I don't think I'm going to take these to the point where they start to brown around the edges. I think we want them to still have structure. We care more about having sort of semi-fresh, partly cooked veggies rather than having any sort of browning in the mix. But, as I said at the start, I think we're heading for a little bit of a short one, which is fine. I started late, and we're ending on time. Started late, ending on time. Our sauce has bubbled, re-thickened. There's definitely more of the sauce than I need. And it's not very orange in color, but that's fine. It's still a sweet, sour citrus sauce, regardless of what it looks like. Keeping a sauce bright orange is usually impossible unless you go for dye. Okay. We are bringing the whole shebang over here. There's our chickens. To which we are adding our woked vegetables. Because as I said, personal preference, I think orange chicken needs some vegetables. And then you take your sauce, you scrape up the bottom of the pan to ensure that all the chunky bits are mobilized. And you dump some of it. Off, off, off. Make sure we don't have any burners hanging out on. You dump some of it and then you start tossing. We're going to get our tosser here to break up that vegetable pile, but other than that, you should be able to do this with just and I think we need a little bit more sauce. We'll give it a drizzle on the plate as well, but I think we need a little bit more in the toss. Yeah. Yeah. See? And it's a sticky situation. It's not a because it's a thick and sugary sauce, which means it is sticky. Which brings us to plating. If you've just arrived, we are in fact already on plating. Give ourselves a generous heaping of the chickens. I don't have any actual oranges to do a little orange garnish, but we can do a red pepper garnish. Kind of. No, noodle. Noodle, no. Normally you garnish, put it there. Move that guy up. Normally you garnish orange chicken with like candied orange peels or orange slices. These noodles want to stick to the paper towel. Okay. green stuff to kind of give it a contrast on the top. I'm also going to cut us a scallion and throw that on top as well. I think that makes for a very attractive and tasty topper. I did not pre-cut one, so we're headed to the front window. See if any of my plants have dried up. Oh my, I think I may have killed one of my plants. One of the rosemaries is looking a little crispy. It's not ideal. That's not ideal. This onion is also a little bit droopy, so we don't have nice perfect circles. We have kind of little semi-flattened slices. I'm going to cut the rest of it right into our leftover, because it's going to want to be there anyways. So we have an ad coming up. I'm going to play that ad right now. Go take my glamour shots and then come back for tasting. So see you after the ad. Don't forget, there's a Christmas special on subs. If you were considering subbing and were waiting for a better deal, now's your time. See you after the ad. For those of you still here, my poor rosemary's dead. I think. It's very crispy. It was very crispy to the touch. I think I let it get away from me. Which means we will have to harvest it. I don't want it to go to waste. It's still green. It's just green and crispy. Okay. Photographs taken. We return. We can put this bit of it away. Tidy up a few things around the edges while we wait for the ad to come back so people can join in. Although I'm sure some of them are already back because it never plays the full slot of ads, I've noticed. Oh, okay. So, yeah, I hope to include Mondays in my rotation going forward and sort of pull away from Tuesdays. You guys are back from the ad. Welcome back. Let's do the formal final taste-a-rooney of this guy. I mean, part one, just grab a piece of this chicken, see how it's held up. Honestly, I think it needs a little bit more of the sauce. I said I was going to top it with a little bit of the sauce, and then I decided not to do that at the very end. But I think actually just putting a little bit more of the sauce just straight on top as a topper is the right decision here. You want, for orange chicken, you want the sauce to be front and center. And I think that bite, I could taste the sauce, but it tasted a little bit too much like breading. Yeah, better. Okay. So toss it in the sauce and then also put the remaining sauce on top as a topper. Or maybe just toss the whole thing in all the sauce. The breading holds up well enough. It's not going to be crispy, obviously, because we covered it in liquid goo. but it holds up. It's not just turned to mush. And I believe that is because it is a mostly vegetable starch breading, which holds its structure better, gives you that sort of crispness when they're fresh, but also it bears sauces like this without going soggy, which I think a classic just flour batter doesn't do very well. The chicken is really good. Like just fried chicken. I mean, okay, it's just fried chicken, but it's really good fried chicken. A sort of a basic, not terribly greasy fried chicken. It's moist but not greasy. The whole thing is, I should talk about the flavors, not just the chicken, but and as we have a very strong punchy flavor, having the rice there, in this case rice noodles, but having a base starch helps you balance out the bites. So the sauce, what we've got going on here, it's got this dark savoriness to it, but it's very sharp. It is a very sharp, acidic, assertive citrus sauce. You can a lot of it leans into the sour, the sourness and the brightness of the citrus to balance out the fact that it is spicy and salty and savory. So it doesn't feel heavy. It feels punchy, I guess. I've said a lot of words. So it's spicy, it's sweet, it's savory, it's acidic. It's probably not very good for your teeth because it has got a lot of sugar and acid in it. But it's just as it's what I said at the beginning. What do we have all the things? Because it's savory, it's salty, it's sweet, it's acidic, and it's got the chicken underneath it, so it's also got a fatty component, and that's the 5 things that combine. In this case, we're using mostly citrus for our acidity, so you also get that sort of tropical flavor of citrus in there. I really like having these sort of tender, crisp vegetables in here as well. They taste like what they are, and they give you a texture contrast because they're... Oh, the breading on that one was still actually crispy. So the breading is actually still holding up crispiness inside being drenched in sauce. That was a good method. Kudos to Dinner in the Dessert for which I used the their breading mix. That was a good call on their part. I followed it to the letter, and dang, it worked out. We're not eating this. This is just dry pepper for decoration. I don't know what much to say about this. It wasn't that hard to make, but I started with a frozen packet of orange sauce that I didn't know what else to do with. So that was sort of the impetus of this, was using that. It would be a little trickier if you just started with orange juice because you'd have to thicken and reduce that yourself. But yeah, the concept here is get the 5 flavors together, get those 5 flavors together, and serve them. If one of them is too strong, tip the balance the other way. I thought our thing was not acidic enough, so I added some lemon to bring it into that sort of bright acidic citrus realm. I should just do a thing about general cooking, because oftentimes I'll do something and I'll say why I'm doing it, but that's often what it is. It's you have to know when you've gone too far and what brings you back. It's easy to say, this is too salty. How do you save a thing that's too salty? Where do you bring it when it is too salty? Too salty is hard to deal with. That one might not be the best place to start, but too acidic, you can pull that one back. Too greasy, you can pull that one back. These things sort of counterbalance. I think we could have actually added a little bit of sesame oil to this. That would have made it really nice. It's already plenty hot. I don't know that we need any more flavors. I guess that's our show. Thanks for watching. I did pick up a thing here, which I'm going to show off. Herbanoid. What's the best oil? The Herbanoid's asking what's the best oil. The go-to oil typically is peanut oil. It has a pretty high smoke point, and has some peanut flavor. I know people are allergic to peanuts. Can't always go with peanut oil. My go-to oil is grapeseed. I actually use this one right here. Let's pop up to the thing. Also, hi Herbanoid, welcome in. I use this one right here, which even specifies high heat cooking, although I just use it as a general sauteing oil. I like grapeseed specifically because it is extremely neutral flavor. If you taste it by itself, you can't taste it. It's super, super neutral flavor, so it doesn't impact the flavor of what you're cooking. But you're right, you need a high heat oil. I didn't use the olive oil because I didn't want, not because you can't fry in olive oil, but because I don't want the acrid flavors that happen when the flavor compounds in the olive oil burn at those high heats. Yes, peanut and sesame oil. I would never fry in sesame oil personally. I think sesame oil has a really strong flavor, and you would lose that if you used it for frying. Peanut tends to have a much milder flavor, but it still tastes like something. I used to use canola because it's generally a pretty neutral flavor, but it's not completely neutral. There's a little, I don't know, I didn't like it. It was a little bit of off flavor to my palate. So I've switched over to grapeseed. Grapeseed is my go-to. It's more expensive than like soybean oil or canola oil, but it's often less than peanut oil. But yeah, so that's my go-to. If I'm doing a deep fry, like an actual deep, multi-inches deep fry, I will reach for soybean oil because it is cheap. Because if you're using that much oil, I would not want to risk ruining a large quantity of a nicer oil. We did a pretty shallow fry today because we used the wok, so we only had a little thing at the bottom of the wok. So we didn't use a ton of it, so I did use the grapeseed today. But when I do like a full, get out the big thing and do a multi-inch deep fry, just for costs purposes, I typically pick up a soybean oil for that, which is also a high heat oil with not much flavor. Yeah. So good question. You can always ask questions. I'm always happy to answer questions. And welcome in, Herbanoid. You are here just in time. We've just done our tasting, and I was thinking about wrapping us up. We made this here orange chicken. Crispy orange chicken with rice noodles. Exactly. And I have some extras and some leftovers. Yeah, I didn't feel like making rice, so I went with rice noodles. That's another thing. These have been great. I took a chance on these little guys. It's one serving of rice noodles in a little thingy. Yeah, they came in sort of a big pack of all these little individual guys. They don't take up hardly any space. They cook really fast. They're great. I have done that, yes. I don't currently have any soba noodles. Typically what I will do is make things using the... I guess I'm going to stick around for a little bit because we're having a good conversation. Um, I will make things using the instant noodles just for the instant noodles to be the base, and then I'll make my own flavors to go with them. Um, just because I think the noodles are pretty good. The noodles in those instant packets are pretty decent noodles. The flavors are not so good. Um, it is surprisingly easy. You're right. It's that I've said it a couple times today about this. The combination of the sweet, sweet, sour, acidic, umami, and salty. Sort of combining those things in the right way gives you that flavor. And a lot of the ingredients, we have our ginger root. A lot of the ingredients are very easy to get and very easy to keep. Like ginger, which I just keep in a drawer, with the garlic, which I also just keep in a drawer. Just keep it dark so it doesn't try to sprout, and you're fine. Uh, Rice and all the noodles and such are kept dry, so they keep forever. Yeah, and I fully agree. It's although it's valuable knowing other techniques as well. I do a lot of fusion things around here, so knowing how to slowly build a sauce in the French way, which we did. Was that just last week? We did. I've done that a couple times too. And it takes longer, but you get a result that you couldn't get instantly, that you can't get on the short term. It's a different technique. I think it's valuable knowing both. I For a little while, I was getting really into Indonesian food. Here, let me just pop over here. Sorry, pop over here since I'm just talking to you now. Um, I was getting really into Indonesian food. If you've never tried making your own Indonesian food, I recommend giving that a look. They have some really interesting ideas, and they're not shy about taking foreign ingredients and using them in ways that the place they came from would never consider using them. And they work. They're not just throwing stuff together randomly. They're making great things using just really interesting techniques and ideas. So if you're looking for a place to explore some interesting cooking, I think Indonesian food is really worth exploring. Um, I think French food is more reputation. It's often very, very fussy to make, and there are easier ways to make things. Um, but there are some things that they make that can't really be done a different way, and they're very good results. So it's kind of both. Um, I do a lot of exploration, and I actually didn't have a good idea today, which is why we ended up on this, because I had this frozen packet of orange flavor sauce from a different thing that I just was like, I got to use that up. We're going to use that up. So I used that up, and I just sort of landed on orange chicken with it. Yeah. Wow. Good conversation. We're getting into some good conversation here. Uh, but yeah, I've done. If you want to explore cooking, oftentimes just get on like somebody's little recipe blog and see what they've done. And if it's something you've never heard of, give it a try. Um, I have learned so much more about cooking since I started doing this because I'll talk to people and they'll be like, you should try this. And I'll look that up and they'll be like, I've never heard of this. Or oftentimes I'll have been given an ingredient because people know that I'm doing the cooking. I've been given an ingredient like, what am I going to do with this? So back in the summer, I was given lots of eggplant. And I know some basic eggplant recipes, but I didn't want to make the basic eggplant recipes on the show, and I didn't want to make them repeatedly and be sort of boring. So I went like, what can I do with eggplant? And it led me to Morocco, where I made Moroccan zalouk and Cobb's, which is a delightful bread. And I'd never heard of either of these things before that. And it was just because I looked up, what do you make with an eggplant? And sometimes for me personally here in the kitchen, I'll pick up an ingredient. I'll go to the store and I'll see something that I have never seen before, that I have no idea what it is, and I won't look it up before I buy it. I'll grab it, bring it home, and we will find out together what it can do. And I'll pull up some reading and do some recipe, reading it. So I'm not just completely out of the blue, because sometimes you can't eat raw, for example. That's how I discovered breadfruit. Breadfruit is delightful. It comes and goes in my local store, and I know that probably can't find it in a lot of places, but wow, it was really good. Sorry about that. I ended up not getting the Cocoa Pods because I knew something about them, and I could not come up with a recipe to use the Cocoa Pods. But for example, what have I got? I've got a bag of frozen sea snails that we used for a joke recipe, but now I've got them. So I got to do something with them. So at some point, we're going to reach in there, grab the frozen sea snails, and make a recipe with them. We've already dealt with the alligator, which I got because the store didn't know they had it, couldn't find it in the system, and it was just unaccounted for merchandise. So they said, you can have it. So I had alligator. Then I had to work what to do with alligator. Am I a professional chef? Technically. Because of this show right here. Because I get paid a little bit from you guys' support here on Twitch. Outside of this, no. But as a technicality, yes. Rayuya doesn't like snails. I would have agreed with you prior to those snails. I've had French escargot, both made in a French restaurant, which tasted like garlic butter because they drown it in garlic butter. And also, I got some of my own and tried to make my own, and that tasted like terrible because it's land snails. And they just kind of taste dirty. These guys that I've got in here are marine snails. They're specifically periwinkles. And they just taste kind of briny. I would say they're not super worth it. I got them for a specific thing, and I just have more than I need. So we're going to do something with them eventually, but I can't say that I would get them over clams in the future. They're just kind of chewy and briny, and they come in these little awkward shells that are harder to get into than a clam shell. So even if you're getting in-shell things, they're slightly less convenient. But yeah, we could snail chowder. We could do something with them. They're frozen. They were frozen when I got them, and I just kept them frozen. So they'll hold until I work something out with them. But eventually, we're going to pull that out. We're going to figure out to do something with them, and we're going to do something with them that I actually isn't a joke. The joke was I made the strange bun from Stardew Valley, which is a universally hated item in the game, and like, of course it is. It's made out of disgusting things and ingredients that don't go together. Snail ice cream does not sound good to me, but we could maybe try it. But yeah, playing around with the ingredients I have on hand is fun. I've got these guys too. Ugh. We've got these guys too, which we're gonna get into at some point. I'm a little afraid of them, but that's partly because the one time I used the one, they came in a pack of 6, and I used one again for a stupid recipe. It wasn't good, but I knew it wasn't going to be good, so that's not reflective of the actual thing. You're playing around the other night with chicken, garlic ginger, garam masala, butter, roast diced tomatoes on rice. That does sound good. Garlic ginger, chicken. That does sound good. Unsalted butter. I have comments about the saltedness of butter. Where's my? It's buried in there. I too once was all in on the old chefy adage. It has to be unsalted butter so that you can control the amount of salt that goes into your butter. Have you ever looked at how much salt they actually put into salted butter in the modern day? It's almost none. It's a tiny, tiny amount. Old-fashioned salted butter, which a lot of classic recipes that are calling for unsalted butter come from the era when salted butter if salted butter is what you have on hand, then either way. When buying it, I used to be adamant about buying unsalted butter because every recipe calls for it. But their recipes call for it because butter, once upon a time, was salted to preserve it, which meant it had a ton of salt in it. So if you were making a recipe, you wouldn't use the salted butter because you'd just be dumping a ton of salt into your recipe. Modern day salted butter is very lightly salted for flavor. I don't have a carton ready on hand, but for the most part, the salted butter is probably not even going to notice the difference in a recipe. So I have a little bit of each, actually, I think, because I like to buy butter when it's on sale and freeze a few blocks of it. So it's probably back behind there. We pull out my shiozake. We pull out my homegrown lemongrass. We pull out some smoked bacon. And then we find a box of butter in the back, which I need some anyways. So while I'm thinking of it, we're going to pull it out. But that's just 4 random things I had in the freezer. Salted butter. So per 14 grams of butter, which is what their serving size is, you get 90 milligrams of salt. So it's not nothing, but it's not like it was once upon a time with the salt. We got to get one of these guys out, though, because the stick that's in my fridge is almost dead, so I need a fresh one from the freezer. You can freeze your butter, by the way. If you catch butter on sale, buy it and freeze it, and then thaw the sticks out one at a time as you need them. They will keep better in the freezer. Wow, we've gotten into really enough conversation that we've only got 3 minutes till the next ad, which is amazing. And I have been so distracted that I haven't even been eating my delicious food. I usually wrap up right away, but we've had such a sparkling conversation. Playing around with 9 spice, somewhat similar to garam masala. If you don't mind my asking, what's in the 9 spice? Butter mixed with olive oil. Yes. Butter mixed with olive oil is what my parents use for the most part because it's easier to get it when it's fridge cold. It's easier to get it out of the thing because just butter tends to be so stiff in the fridge, which is why I could put it on the countertop and it gets all soft and spready. Oh man, we're all the way up to 7 o'clock. I thought we were going to end early. I should keep tidying up while I'm chit-chatting, and I could have all this clean, or at least a bunch of this cleaned up before I even get done. Nine spice is allspice, cinnamon, coriander, black pepper, cardamom, cumin, clove, mace, and nutmeg. Allspice, cinnamon, coriander, black pepper, cardamom, cumin, clove, and nutmeg. I don't have any mace, but I have everything else on your list there. On my my spice rack of wonders over here, which you never get to see because it's hidden under the countertop, but it's right there. That is quite the combination. It's very, they're all very warm flavors. It's a warm combination with not a lot of spice aside from the black pepper. The cardamom, I always forget what cardamom, oh, it's here somewhere. I always forget what cardamom tastes like or smells like on its own. Allspice. Maybe I don't have cardamom, actually. Ooh. Oh, no, there it is. Cardamom. Remind myself what cardamom. Huh. I don't know what I would use that for. I've got some, and I've clearly used it because it's more than half gone, but I'm not sure what I use it for. Speaking of interesting flavors that I don't know what I'm going to use for, I found this at a local store. Pandan essence. And I cracked it open and gave it a sniff, and first of all, this stuff is super concentrated, so the smell is incredibly potent. But that smell is both incredibly unique and for some reason super familiar to me. Oh, we have an ad. Snuck up on us again. I'll stop talking for a second and eat some of my delicious dinner. I mean, I'm sure you can use cardamom lots of places. Just by smelling it, I'm not sure where that profile fits. Put stuff away, put stuff away. I'm gonna not chit chat a ton extra while the ad's on. And if you're ever interested in following me, for some reason, We have anonymous follows. Also, let me go grab my Discord. Let me go quick grab my Discord while we've got some folks in here. If you're interested, that's my Discord. It's very low activity, but I do my go live notifications there. And there's space for photos, and I'd like to post my photos of food there as well. And you're welcome to join. Otherwise, we're also here on the old Twitcheroo. I must have bought it for something that called for cardamom. But sometimes I will use a recipe and not just wing it. Can't off the top of my head think about what it was. It's one of the newer style bottles. It's not one of these old ones. So it's like within the past few years. Which now that I say it out loud means some of these spices are probably completely tasteless if they've been sitting there that long. Which is why you should buy whole spices. They stay on your shelf longer. The pre-powdered stuff loses its potency as it sits around. Like this stuff. Ground allspice versus the whole allspice berries, which are my preferred allspice. Actually, I have ground a lot of things that I feel like we're coming to a conclusion. Good stuff. So, I'm so happy that we got a nice dive in on conversation there. I am going to wrap us up though. I know we just went through an ad, and I should have snoozed that ad if I was gonna wrap us up. But I am gonna wrap us up so I can eat that, so I can clean this up, because otherwise I'm just standing here. I have a hard time talking and eating at the same time, which is why I typically don't spend a lot of time eating with you guys on the camera. So yeah, I hope to be back later this week. Obviously, the next weekend is Christmas, and then the following weekend is the New Year's. So there's likely to be erratic disruption over the next 2 weeks. But I would like to solidify a schedule for January so that I can stick to a nice regimented schedule for this, and so that I can sprinkle in things like, I don't know, let's go play a video game, or let's build a Lego. One I got my eye on. Or, trading cards, stuff, other interests besides cooking. But it'd be nice to have a schedule for that so people don't come in expecting one thing and then it's not that. So yeah, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being here. Thanks to I guess nothing happened today. Thanks to everyone for being here. Welcome in the new people who showed up. We had a couple new chatters today, which is always exciting. I'm going to go rate us off. We're going to see who's on right now. That we can drop this crew off on. Let's mute up and check out Bopper. What's Bopper doing? It's a special event. What are you doing, Bopper? Bopper is just being a Christmas tree. Oh, I know where we're going. Okay. I don't get to. We're gonna go raid Sal. Um, I don't usually go long enough to raid Sal, but we had a good conversation, so I have rolled over into the time to play set to raid Sal. Sal is currently in Just Chatting intro, but will be playing Dredge a bit later on. She also does some cooking. She's got that combo that I aspire to of doing games and sometimes cooking, except I'm doing cooking and sometimes. Anyways, so we're going to go check out Sal, who will be playing Dredge. I'm not sure how far in she is at this point, so caution spoilers. We love Sal around here. Sal, I think, is the number one reason that I decided to get into streaming in the first place. So there's that. Hi, Spear. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for lurking. Lurking is always appreciated. You never need to chit chat. I like to chit chat too, but you never feel obligated. Lurking is great. Yeah. So shooting for. God, this week is going to be weird because of the holiday. I'll let you know in Discord when I come up with a good time to do it. So stay tuned. Bye. And then we push the button.